I want to thank you for taking the time to review our program. I reviewed the summary of your findings and recommendation for improving our human subject protections program. We definitely seem to have some deficiencies.
Oh, well, no program is perfect, and I was encouraged that your IRB chairperson and members are very committed to their mission. Well, in addition, hiring Mr. Cash as the director of the IRB office was a good move. I think between that hire and responding to my feedback, you'll be in a good position to have a very strong human subject protections program.
Yes, we're very fortunate in being able to recruit him at this crucial juncture.
So if it's okay, I'd like to limit our meeting today to discussing a few key findings. First, those needing your immediate attention, and then I'll bring you up to date on where we are with some of the other findings and recommendations.
Certainly, we can do that.
Well, I'd like to start by discussing your needs related to space and support for the IRB duties. Now, the regulations require that institutions provide meeting space and sufficient staff to support the IRB's review and record-keeping duties. Now, as you know, I found that the IRB does not appear to have adequate meeting space.
I didn't recognize this was a problem. They should feel free to use the administrative conference room on this floor. All they need to do is reserve it in advance. I'd suggest they block out a recurring time frame on the calendar, and I'll ensure it's available for all future IRB meetings.
Excellent. That was an easy fix.
Where are we with the staffing?
As you know, the IRB has had only one part-time position, Ms. Knowles, but she's only here one day a week. Now, Mr. Cash and I discussed this, and we would like Ms. Knowles to continue to help with copying and other support services as needed. We would like to increase her hours. Well, and of course, we now have Mr. Cash.
We can certainly allow up to 3 days a week, if that's sufficient.
Well, I think that should be adequate for now.
What about space allocation for records? What is your assessment of our needs?
As we both observed when we stopped by Ms. Knowles' cubicle last week, the IRB records have outgrown the space, and I have concerns about whether the records are being maintained appropriately. The HHS regulations require that the institution prepare and maintain adequate documentation of IRB activities. When I requested certain records to review for my audit, Ms. Knowles was not able to find all the records that the regulations require institutions to retain. We also found that some IRB members have the official records in their offices.
Oh, that's not good.
I recommend maintaining all IRB records in one location and in a manner that allows them to be available for review by IRB members and for inspection by others when needed. They should be kept in an area that can be secured in order to limit access.
I recognized last week that we have a problem with this. So do you have a particular space in mind?
Well, I've had my eye on a room on this floor at the end of the hall, room 301. Apparently, it's not being used except to store some old records. Oh, it would be ideal, especially since it's next door to the conference room you're making available for the IRB meetings. Another step you might consider is whether it would be worthwhile to use an electronic record system, which might solve some of your storage and access issues.
I have no problem making that room available. I'll have it vacated and cleaned. That should only take a day or so. And if you can make some suggestions about electronic record systems, I'd be glad to hear them. So, what is next on your agenda?
The other overarching concern I have related to the IRB records is that in some cases the institution did not appear to maintain adequate documentation of IRB activities. For example, the IRB did not prepare and maintain adequate documentation of minutes of IRB meetings. In some instances, it could not be determined what the IRB actually approved at convened meetings.
Does the IRB need additional training to know how to review research?
That's not clear. Now, from my discussions with IRB members, it appears that the IRB came to appropriate decisions. However, in some cases, the documentation was not adequate under the requirements of the regulations at Section 46.115. Among other considerations, we need to ensure adequate documentation of what is happening at IRB meetings as stipulated by the regulations. As you know, Mr. Cash will be attending all IRB meetings and will be able to observe whether the IRB is making the findings required for taking specific actions. If not, additional training would be indicated. He'll be responsible for drafting the minutes of the meetings and will ensure that they are in sufficient detail to reflect the documentation that is required by the regulations. We're meeting tomorrow to go over in detail the deficiencies I observed and requirements related to the IRB meeting minutes and other IRB records.
I'll leave it up to you to work with Mr. Cash on those details. Thank you for stopping by. I'll see you next week for an update on our progress.
Thank you.